What's going on, chat? So today we're going to be doing a guide to Ahri, or doing an introduction to Ahri. And this champion is a pretty good champion. It has a lot of flexibility. It's in very good colors. It's in green and blue. And we'll go over the legend ability. So when an enemy unit attacks a battlefield you control, give it -1 might this turn to a minimum of 1 might, which means that if let's say you have a 2-cost unit, more often than not their 2-cost unit will need to have something behind it, right? So what I mean by that is it probably a combat trick or maybe removal or something like that, but it makes it so that attacking into you is very tricky. So I liken this to be kind of I liken Ahri to be somewhat of a maybe a blue Master Yi in that regard. That's an oversimplification for sure, but in a lot of cases the way that she plays it can be true. You do need to change a lot of your mentalities though, but we'll go over that later. So the legend ability makes it just so that you are in a favorable position while defending, and it kind of gives you an increased ability to hold, and really can sometimes just completely scare your opponent off from attacking, because if you have runes up and they need to go -1 might, they're in a lot of trouble if you have something else, right? So yeah, Ahri is just a very good kind of a tempo passive ability it's always relevant if you are on a battlefield. And the chosen champion that's in use a lot is a green Ahri. That's what we'll be using today. So green Ahri is a 5-cost, 1 green power and 4 might, and her ability is just when I hold, score 1 point. So this makes it so that you can use her ability to make it very difficult for your opponent to swing into you, right? But they have to swing into you, because if you hold for too long, you'll just win the game, right? So let's say your opponent scores the first point, and you guys just mind your own business, holding 1 battlefield each. So your opponent will go 1 point, you'll go to 1 point, your opponent will go 2 points, and you just hold with 2 points. And then if you play the Ahri, you'll start scoring at double the rate or double the pace. And if they don't fight you off of that, you will just win. And you have a lot of tools to make sure that you win from that position. So it can create pressure that your opponent can't recover from. So that's why Ahri the legend and Ahri the green chosen champion are very good synergistically. They make it so that you can actually hold with the green Ahri, and that would be the reasons that would be the start of why you want to play green Ahri. And we will go over the deck list, but there are a lot of interesting things this deck can do. In general, the game plan for this deck is to defend 1 battlefield, and your battlefields are very good at that, good at helping you do that. And mid-game, you would stabilize and harass the other battlefield with cards like Blitzcrank, Riptide Rex, Singularity. And end-game, you would lock your opponent out with a card like Watcher and hold up runes so they can never win the combat. You would hold up, maybe you would probably go to like 10 runes, 9 or 10 runes, and then you would do something like Thousand-Tailed Watcher, and then you will hold up a discipline ready to win any combat, so opponent can't just dead bloom or anything like that. If opponent tries to use White Flame or Primal Strength, you can have Defy for Primal. You can have Smoke Screen for a lot of for dead blooms. So one neat thing about Thousand-Tailed Watcher is that if your opponent has dead bloom, it's just tied, right? It's immediately tied because their dead bloom goes to 7, your Watcher's at 7, and that could prove very problematic, because you only need one rune for you to win that combat because you have Stupefy and On Guard, right? That would be just devastating if you win a combat off of one rune. And the end game also has time warp. You have access to time warp here, so you take an extra turn. So if you have an Ahri on board and you go ahead and ready all your runes, you got 10 runes. If you can get Ahri to a battlefield, you just press time warp and then you immediately score 2 points because of her chosen champion ability. And that is that's really just being able to threaten that makes a lot of plays from your opponents very poor. And we're gonna go over now the deck list that we have. So obviously we have the legend Ahri. We've got the green chosen champion. We really mostly stay away from the blue chosen champion, the blue Ahri, because she's pretty weak to a lot of things. She doesn't really apply very good pressure attacking or defending, and she costs a power. She also just dies immediately to Falling Star, which is very could just prove game ending. So what Green Ahri gives us access to is the ability to just kind of win. She's a late game win condition. She's a mid to late game win condition when you can guarantee her survival, right? So for example, if you have a Tasty Fey Folk, if you on 7 you play a Tasty Fey Folk as trying to hold the battlefield and it dies in combat or whatnot, you go to 9 runes and then you go to 11 runes, and then if you can put Ahri onto a battlefield here, then what's going to happen is you will have, if you're at 11, you're going to have access to maybe a Yordle also, so that'll put you to 8. You'll have 3 more. You'll have access to Smokescreen, Discipline, or if your opponent tries to run over Ahri, you can even just retreat it. So this deck is just very versatile in options for you to apply pressure with Ahri. And that's usually how that works. You use the legend ability to generate you a tempo advantage on the board, and use that tempo advantage to kind of force your opponent into plays that they can't be making but need to make in order to survive, right? So if the opponent can't get rid of this Ahri in a timely manner, they will just lose the game because you're scoring 2 points at a time. Our battlefields are Dreaming Tree, Grove, and Sanctum. So we use Dreaming Tree game 1 usually, and this is because we have lots of single target. This is usually like Dreaming Tree is mostly a one-sided battlefield, but you do need to be careful. You do need to be aware of your opponent's decks, but more often than not, you can engineer a lot of situations that really benefit you, or you could just stay off of the Dreaming Tree, and if it creates a situation that benefits your opponent more than it does yourself, right? Some neat combos with Dreaming Tree will be Stupefy, so you can actually just, let's say you have a unit on Dreaming Tree and your opponent let's say your opponent has a Sanctum on the other side there, that's their battlefield. So let's say you play a 2-drop and then you move your 2-drop onto the Dreaming Tree, and your opponent plays a 2-drop and moves their 2-drop to their battlefield. So what you can do is during that showdown, you can Stupefy your own unit, and you're going to be able to draw 1 card for Stupefy, 1 card for Dreaming Tree. So you essentially go, you turn your 1-cost card into draw 2, which can be really disgusting. It's just, you can even develop with that, or you can do things like find your center. So one thing that Dreaming Tree does is, let's say you go first, and you turn 1, you play a 2-drop. Turn 2, you can immediately just go take your 2-drop, move it onto the Dreaming Tree here, and then just pass the turn, right? So if you pass the turn, your opponent's gonna be like, oh no, I can't beat Discipline, right? So if you've got a Ravenbloom student, and then it's on the Dreaming Tree, so your opponent attacking into it, they already get -1 might from your Ahri legend ability, right? So the likelihood that they can beat that on top of beating a Discipline, on top of beating Stupefy, maybe Defy, that usually is just something that doesn't happen. And when they go and opt to fight for the other battlefield, then you can do things like find your center, or stupefy your own unit, so you can draw 2. And there are just a lot of situations that are created because of basically the Ahri legend acts as a deterrent in a lot of cases, especially on Dreaming Tree, because you don't want to be attacking into a Dreaming Tree that you can't win, and your opponent's drawing cards. So it's double whammy if you attack a player into Dreaming Tree and they use combat tricks to live. That's a recipe for disaster, which I think you'll see in the gameplay in a little bit. But so this is why we use Dreaming Tree game 1. It's fine if you're going first. It's fine if you're going second. You can generally create a situation where it's beneficial for you more than it is for your opponent, right? Going first, we're going to choose Grove of the God Willow. So that one is fairly self-explanatory. Our turn 1, you do your best to play a 2-drop. Just aggressively mull for 1 2-drop. You don't need 2. You don't need to do, because usually you don't develop on turn 2. But what you'll do is you'll play a 2-drop, and then you're going to just hold up 4 runes and defend the 2-drop with your life. So you'll play Defy, Stupefy, On Guard, maybe a Discipline, Smokescreen, a combination of all the above. A neat little combo. You can also do Retreat on Dreaming Tree, but that's just a side tangent at this point. So we got Grove of the God Willow that just helps us draw cards. So essentially, you'll just play 2-drop, go to Grove, defend it, draw, defend it, draw, and then maybe pull back, which is what you'll see us do later in the gameplay. So that is pretty simple for there. Also useful on holding. You can use Yordle. So Yordle will defend your unit. So if you have a student and a Yordle and the opponent attacks in and they immediately lose 1 might, but you can do things like Smokescreen and Stupefy to make it kind of really difficult for your opponent to get rid of your stronger unit, right? So tank is a very good keyword. It's a very good keyword with Ahri in particular. Not useful in Yi, so that would be like one thing that she does a lot better than Yi. Going second, we use Candlelit Sanctum. So Candlelit Sanctum is a very good general purpose battlefield here. You can also use it game 1 if you think your opponent has a lot of pump spells and you'd rather save Dreaming Tree for later game, but usually that doesn't happen. Usually you just use Candlelit Sanctum for going second. What Candlelit Sanctum is good for is generally opponent goes first and conquers their battlefield, like maybe let's say for example Kaisa likes to use Reaver's Row going first, or Targon's, but in either case they will go to their battlefield, and then you'll have the ability to go to your Sanctum. No, in that scenario, they probably just go to your Sanctum. But in general, what Sanctum allows you to do is find your sideboard cards. So, for example, against Aurora is probably a better example for this concept, is that you are probably the first to get onto the Aurora, or get onto the Sanctum and use its ability, and it allows you to dig for your sideboard cards. Like you'll be able to dig for Adaptatron, you'll be able to dig for Smokescreen, and cards like that. And basically any matchup, you know, Riptide Rex is also helpful in a lot of matchups. But Candlelit Sanctum essentially helps you dig for your post-board cards in any matchup. It doesn't matter whether it's Kaisa or whatever. It's usually used for that, right? So if let's say you're in the mirror match 2 and your opponent does their Grove of the God Willow go first, you can go Candlelit Sanctum and you can dig for your cards to help you break that board. Sometimes you just, maybe dig to a Blitzcrank, dig to a Riptide Rex, dig to a Singularity. You can use it for things like that. that'll be the battlefields. We'll go over the main board now. And main board, we have 2 Defy, not going with 3 because it's a little clunky sometimes, but still a great card. You just don't want like too many to get stuck in your hand. You just need to use it at the crucial moment, right? 3 Stupefy, you can go down a Stupefy game 2 because Stupefy is a very good game 1, especially with Dreaming Tree, but it's still very good on Grove, maybe, and it's still very good into Candlelit Sanctum because you can choose, you can look at the top 2, put the best card on top, and then you can use a card like Stupefy. So Candlelit Sanctum in particular has very good synergies into draw cards, right? So that would be Discipline, Yordle, Clockwork Keeper, cards like that. But yeah, so we're going into that. We play 2 on guard. We don't want to play 3 because and there are a lot of situations where you just don't have a unit that is alone on a battlefield. So that's why we only play 1 and this reaction. Reactions is busted. We also have 2 retreats. Yeah, it's very good. It's very good as a ramp card. With Dreaming Tree, especially, it helps us get to that end game position where we lock out our opponents with Watcher in a combat trick or Time Warp with Ahri. We need a lot of runes to close out the game sometimes, not all the time, but it helps a lot, and Retreat will help us get there, especially in a field full of Kaisas. So we're also playing 2 charms here, only 2, and why I'm playing only 2 is instead of 3 is because we're also playing the 1 of Blitzcrank. Blitzcrank is a very good unit on Ahri because you can pull the units from the other battlefield, make them go -1 might, and when you hold, you can just keep doing that. So one way to look at Blitzcrank potentially, not all the time, is that it's a repeatable charm effect, and you will win a lot of combats that way, especially against a mirror match, especially against E. But very, very bad into some decks, like really mostly Aurora, but it can be bad into also maybe Dead Blooms, that kind of thing. But in general, 2 charm and 1 Blitzcrank is very good. We're playing 3 Stalwart Poro because shield. So one way to look at this is it pretty much just defends for 4 because it has shield 1, right? So it'll be 3, and then your opponent's -1. So then that's essentially 4. It'll tie if Kaisa runs into it. She's 4 might. She'll go down to 3 might, and this defense for 3 might. So you can easily win it with 1 cost trick or discipline. Playing a 3 Ravenbloom student for the same reason. We play a lot of reaction speed spells, and that allows her to just get bigger while your opponent gets smaller using the Kaisa Legend ability here. And we're playing 3 Discipline because this card is pretty much auto include in most screen decks. It's just really makes combat super obnoxious for your opponent, and you'll draw cards so it gets replaced. And we also have 2 Smokescreen because this card is just very versatile. It is sort of a removal spell in a lot of cases. Your opponent just can't walk in anymore with things. We're playing a 2 Clockwork Keeper, and we went with only 2 because we don't really want to be paying this power too often, and we do have better 2 drops, so we're just leaving this as like an end, maybe as a unit that we can play early, but also as a unit that we can dump runes into. Like, for example, after we Tasty, we can just play the Clockwork Keeper, draw a card, and not really be too bothered about it. And also another thing that I guess you could say would take the place of the 3rd keeper would be this Lecturing Yordle. We're playing 3 of Lecturing Yordle, and tank is very good in Ahri, mostly because you can protect your big stuff as we were describing earlier. So if you've got a Poro and you've got a Yordle, they essentially defend for 6, and even if they send something that is like 5, only the Yordle dies. It makes it so that your priority stuff can't really die very easily, right? So if you've got a Riptide Rex on the board and you put a Lecturing Yordle with it, the chances that it goes bye-bye is very small. All right, so if the opponent has a Watcher, your Rex will be 3, the Yordle will be 1, and a Watcher will be 6. And if you do like a Smoke, it'll go to 2, and you can win that combat pretty easily. Discipline makes a trade, but yeah, Darius, so Darius is a better example for this. So you would have Riptide Rex 6 and 2, and then that has tank, and then Darius swings for 7. Maybe they play Darius at a unit, and it will only be able to hit the 2. So there are a lot of cases. Oh, actually, Darius will be 6, but so even Stupefy is not enough to get past that. But Yordle makes a lot of combats very kind of sticky for your opponent, make it very tricky, and yeah, that's why just like the tank keyword, especially with the green Ahri, which we were discussing earlier, is just very good. We've got Find Your Center here. We just got 2 of them, kind of just hanging out. If your opponent gets a little ahead of you, you can play it for cheap, and if they don't, sometimes you just ramp up to a Riptide Rex or a Singularity, and you just win the game from there. You can also play, so the rest of the deck also has, we've already talked about this Blitzcrank. We're playing 1 Riptide Rex. So one thing that is good about Ahri is that she draws a lot of cards. So, between we've got 3 Stupefy, we've got 3 Discipline, we've got 3 Yordle. This we maybe count Clockwork Keeper as half a card draw. We've got Find Your Center, we've got Tasty, we got the Mr. Eggplant right here, and we've also got Grove and Dreaming Tree, and Catalyst Sanctum is pseudo card draw. It's like half a card. The way Magic players would value Scry is that they'll value 1 Scry as half a card, which is it's a pretty decent heuristic. So the deck goes through a lot of cards, so I think that this deck is very well suited to playing 2-ofs, which is why we've got 1 of Riptide Rex, and we'll go over the sideboard in a moment, but we've also got another Riptide Rex on the side. But yeah, Riptide Rex in 1 I think is all you need. In the main board, you can go up if you like. You could maybe play 2, or you could play 3 Singularity. So when I was building this deck, what I was looking at is we're playing 1 Riptide Rex and 2 Singularity. So initially I had 3 Singularity, right? But since we're going through the deck a lot, you probably see 1 and 1, right? You'll see 1 Rex, 1 Singularity, something like that. Or some games you'll see 2 Singularity and be totally okay with it. I just don't want to go too deep into the deck and see 3 Singularity or 3 Rex, and it's that's what I was. That's usually the way I think about decks that draw a lot. Especially if your deck doesn't draw a lot, then you got to think about things in a little different way. But yeah, so we're playing 1 Rex and 2 Singularity, and these kind of share the same slot in a way. And we also have 3 Thousand Tail Watcher. This card is just nuts. It's a very good card here. It just helps you close out the game, and is a very big body, right? So usually it beats whatever is on the battlefield, that you accelerate out and beat something on a battlefield. And it also helps you beat stuff on other battlefields, right? So for example, if you are at 7 runes, if you start your turn at 7 runes, you can play a Tasty and then pass the turn, and then go to your next turn, play a Thousand Tail Watcher. You go from 7 runes, what is this? You go 7 runes with Tasty, and you go to 9 runes Watcher, and then you use Watcher to accelerate. By paying 8, you have 1 rune available, so you can win 2 battlefields at that point, because Tasty because Thousand Tail Watcher has shrunk everything, and it'll probably win 1 battlefield. Watcher wins another battlefield, and you'll still have access to one of the you still have access to Stupefy or On Guard, because you spent only 8 out of 9, or you can even Charm, which I think does come up in a game, or you could go for a Retreat. But the one cost suite in this deck is very strong, and I think that you know, paired with cards like Tattletale Watcher and Tasty Faithful, which helps you get to that late game stage, it is very strong. And we've also got Tasty Faithful here, so sometimes you just need to accelerate it and be something, and that'll just do a lot for you. Where Tasty's main strength lies is that if it ever sits on the battlefield for one, it's 7. This 7 might immediately, right? Because of Ahri's legend ability. So let's say you got a Tasty on a battlefield and your opponent has a Darius and a unit, and they go into Tasty, they're just trading. So your opponent's like, oh man, I hate that. Because you're gonna have 2 more runes and you draw 1. So if you usually, what a good play pattern is you hold the battlefield and you go to 7 runes, and then you leave the Tasty. You just play the Tasty to the battlefield, move your other unit back, and Tasty will just kind of just farm points off of that battlefield, because Tasty is a card that usually opponents want to do their best to avoid getting beating in combat because of that death knell ability. And the last card in the deck, last card in the main deck, is Time Warp. So Time Warp creates a lot of situations where your opponent, sometimes they get in a situation where they have to play around Time Warp, and they have to kind of keep you off of a battlefield if you hold, right? So let's say you're at 5 points. You say you're at 5 points. Let's put that here. So yeah, 5 points, and then you have a Tasty Faithful on the board, right? So if your opponent, if you're gonna go into Time Warp turn, what ends up happening is you go up to 6 points, and then you Time Warp, and then you're at 7 points, and then you watch the other side for 8 points, and you'll win the game. That's why you know, you're at 10 runes, and then you go to 8 runes, and then 8 is exactly enough for Watcher, and you'll just win the game that way, which is it's just a very strong thing to do. Time Warp just being in the deck creates a lot of pressure for your opponent, and you just win outright sometimes from 5 points or 4 points, or you know, that kind of deal. We're gonna go into the sideboard. We're playing a Defy. Sometimes you want a 3rd Defy in the deck. Like for example, I like having 3rd Defy against Aurora decks, because if you defy their Catalyst, you get into a very good position. Sometimes you also need it into Kaisa. For example, if you are on Grove with a God Willow and you're playing Kaisa, what you generally want is a card like Defy. You could argue for Windwall, because Windwall can stop Falling Star, but you want cards that just help you live on, play a 2-drop and live, just like we discussed. Because on turn 2 you play a unit, and then next turn you'll be at 4 runes, and then you just send in your unit to the Grove, and what you need to do is have it survive. What that means is if your opponent has a Hextech Ray, you need to be able to on guard at that moment, or if your opponent has a Void Seeker, you need to be able to defy at that moment. You could even retreat technically and just play another 2-drop and run it back, make your opponent use resources while you ramp and play the 2-drop again. But that's a play patterns discussion. So you want Defy sometimes in some matchups where you just need to ensure that your opponent can't do too much, and you have key cards you want to stop. We've got a 3rd Smokescreen. So one of the theoretical aspects of this sideboard is that we're playing some 2-ofs, a lot of 2-ofs in this deck, or even this 1-of, for example. And what we want to be able to do is increase the number of that. So for example, Smokescreen, we have 2 Smokescreens in the deck, but sometimes we really want this 3rd Smokescreen for playing against maybe certain colors like orange. So why that would be good against orange is because it beats cards like Dead Bloom and Carnivorous Snapvine, and it also just helps you attack into other certain legends like Master Yi. So Master Yi increases the might, right? So let's say, for example, Star Wars Poro defense for 5, and then you Smokescreen, and now defense for 1. So sometimes you just need it to win against certain decks. It's a little bit like removal. one way to look at it. So that's why we got the third smoke screen in the sideboard. We've also got a wind wall in the sideboard. So a card that this is particularly good against is actually Time Warp. So we make sure that the opponent can't do the extra turn, and they spend 10 and 4 energy. So if they do that right in front of your wind wall, that could prove very problematic for them. They might just lose the game for that, for committing so much into that. It depends, but it definitely stops you from losing immediately a lot of the time. So we do play wind wall for that, or opponent could also just have Icathian Rain, Falling Star. Sometimes you just need to have that extra ability to counter spells, and wind wall gives you exactly that. We're playing 2 Adaptatron here for gear-based decks. That would include playing as Aurora and against a Hook. But other decks, maybe if your opponent plays a lot of Seals or something, you might want to just play Adaptatron, just something to take them off of the Seals and make their rune situation worse. We've got 2 Sprite Mothers here. So Sprite Mother can be good against certain decks like Master Yi. No, excuse me, like Kaisa. Master Yi is okay, but you wouldn't really side it in for that. You would side it in for a deck like Kaisa, or a deck like Hook Darius or Victor. So one reason to side in Sprite Mother is because the opponent just has a lot of removal, and you want to be able to harass the points and harass the battlefields. So like Kaisa would be an example of a deck that has a lot of removal, and also a lot you want to put it in against decks with small units like Hook Darius or Victor, like we described, because they can't just walk in with a recruit and score a point if if the sprite is on that point, right? So if the opponent walks in with a recruit, they've got 1 might on a battlefield, and you Sprite Mother, and then you just send in the sprite. Not only do you get rid of that unit, you also score the point, and you deny your opponent from walking in again. And that's why Sprite Mother is good. And we've also got our Riptide Rex here, and that's our second copy of Riptide Rex. So that just helps us contest kind of get a large body, and also contest other battlefields where your opponent is trying to hold. So for example, that could be good against Master Yi, because Master Yi often tries to hold with 1 unit, and we could just get rid of that unit and walk in with one of our small guys there. And it also leaves behind a 6 might unit, so that can be good against the decks like Kaisa, who have they can easily have trouble against clearing a 6 might unit, just like we discussed with Tasty and Darius interaction. But yeah, that's the sideboard. Go ahead and leave in the comments if you guys have any questions. The deck list will be in the description, and we'll be playing some games here. So thanks for watching, and enjoy the gameplay. So we're going to go ahead and get started here with the gameplay, and we are playing Ahri, and opponent is playing Master Yi. So Master Yi, we'll need to see what kind of battlefield they're playing in game 1 to kind of figure out what kind of Yi they're playing, but we're just going to go ahead and start with the Dreaming Tree as our game 1 battlefield. The opponent has a Candlelit Sanctum. So what that tells me is that they are probably looking at a sort of maybe classic Yi or ramp Yi, somewhere in that range. Probably not Aurora Yi, because Aurora Yi is going to be playing other battlefields, but that's what we're hypothesizing right now. Here we're gonna go ahead and check out our starting hand. We're opening with a 2 student, Smoke, and Singularity, and we are looking at mid-range Yi. So what that tells us is that we probably want this Singularity, we probably want this Smoke Screen. We're playing 2 of each of those cards, and we don't really need two drops here. So we're just gonna go ahead and send that back. The opponent will be going first, so that is not a factor in this situation. but could be a factor. So yeah, so opponent goes ahead and finishes their mull. They're gonna go ahead and play a 2-drop past the turn. So we've drawn the Watcher for the mulligan here, and we're gonna go ahead and take our turn. We're gonna have 3 runes available this turn. Okay, so we'll play our student, pass the turn. We're probably gonna be going over to the Dreaming Tree, but the Dreaming Tree is actually not that good for us because we don't have any combat tricks right now. We don't have On Guard, we don't have Stupefy, we don't have anything, man. We're struggling. This game is not a good start for a Dreaming Tree, but we'll have to just deal with it here. Opponent goes to Candlelit Sanctum for their first conquer, being able to use the Candlelit ability to look at the top 2 cards of their deck. Opponent is doing 1 top 1 bottom here, and this Poro defense for 5, which is very problematic for us. We could attack into it with Smoke and Defy, but what we don't want to do is use up all of our runes here. So what the opponent is doing is they're using the what's it called? They're just playing a first mate and playing a hidden card for turn. I think our best hope is looking like playing an Ahri and having a singularity and just letting the opponent move up points. So opponent will be at 5 runes, but we do need to expect Primal. Because Primal will just completely destroy us if we just put both of these on here. So what the opponent does is they move on to here. They go to 3 points, and they play Pakakub, and then they move back their unit, and now they're defending for 5 on both battlefields. They play a Pookie, and then now they're defending for 6, I think, on this one. Yeah, so 5 and 6. Opponent still has 3 runes available, which is pretty crazy. They play a Poro to base. They have 1 rune available here. Pass a turn. We are at 6 runes. So the biggest problem with this situation is if we singularity here, we kind of get stuck, right? We'll get stuck at 6, and we just essentially never really play this Watcher unless we don't do anything for a turn. So I think we're gonna be looking at that kind of angle here. Because we don't have any combat tricks, we can't really win a combat, and this is where the game doesn't look too good. We maybe should have mulliganed this singularity. It might have been too greedy to keep, but it's also one of those things where I'm not sure how unlucky this is. I would consider it pretty unlucky since we drew 0 of our 1-cost spells, 0 discipline. That's probably like 10 hits, and we just needed 1 of them, and we haven't seen any of them, right? So here we're thinking about whether we should swing. So here we're opting to just play the Yordle to draw a card, and it is a Stalwart Poro. We're going to also play that to the board, pass the turn. So the reason why I did this and not fight is because I think this gives us the best opportunity to win the game, even though it isn't quite the best. We will have access to Watcher and Singularity and Smokescreen and Defy. But opponents is playing Billboard Workshop back there, so it could cause a lot of problems. So now, at least with 8 runes, we'll have access to a few different lines. We could play Watcher with Defy backup, or Watcher and Retreat. And yeah, this is not going very well, but you know, you do what you gotta do. Just do what you can. So we're playing this Watcher here. Opponent, the way that I'm looking at this situation is we do know the opponent has most of their cards on the board, so they probably have 1 or 2 tricks, but they are kind of running low on resources in hand, and that would be the way that we have any shot whatsoever, right? We are moving this Ahri into the first mate. The first mate is defending for 3. Our Ahri is 4. Opponent plays it on guard, and I think we're forced to defy here. So we're gonna go ahead and defy. Maybe I think we should have looked at sending in this Yordle with Ahri because of combat trick, but that could have been wrong. I could see it being wrong. We score our first point of the game, which is not the best place to be, but now we are just stacking on this side of the board. So it's very weird because there's still 3 here, right? We could have also just sent everything in here. Maybe that was better, but the problem is that what that leaves us open to is Yi just running over the Ahri, and I'm not sure I wanted to live in that situation. I can see it being fine though. Maybe that was better because we do have singularity. If they master Yi, we could singularity 2 units and still have access to Watcher running into that side of the board. So yeah, I think this game was quite unfortunate in the way that we drew, but at the same time, our decisions could have been improved here, I think. So yeah, this will defend for 3. Opponent is playing Charm, getting rid of the Ahri, which is very important here, which would have happened either way because they would have sent Master Yi in. But now the Master Yi is 5 because of the Ahri legend, and we've got 5 might on our end also. So they go ahead and trade there. And yeah. And now the opponent will send in their Poro, scoring their 7th point, and now we're permanently in a position where we need to stop our opponent from holding and double scoring. So now we're going to go ahead and move our Watcher into this point here. At least that'll put it on the Dreaming Tree, and then we'll have access to what's that called? Retreat here. Oh, so Watcher takes out the Stalwart, and we're gonna need to singularity both the Pookie and the Cub. At this point, we just need to allow the opponent to score and draw with this onto the Sanctum, which is very good for them. Opponent will draw a card and then get the Sanctum trigger right after. Opponent puts 1 card on top and bottom, and they have 4 cards in hand, which is very good for them. And their next card is probably decent. And opponent plays Clockwork Keeper, draws the card that they put on top, and they get another Clockwork Keeper. It looks like they're not interested in drawing for this turn, and they're gonna go ahead and pass the turn. So we have drawn Charm here, and we get 1 score for holding. Something to think about is the opponent is basically drawing a point or drawing every time they score. So not looking the best for us here. We do have access to Charm here, so we need to make sure that we sequence correctly. We're playing Singularity. We're gonna chop their unit on the battlefield, and we chop the battlefield and 1 of the Clockworks. And the reason why we need to do this is because we need to play around Defy. To make sure that they don't just hold. If they have Defy and they hold here, they just win. So they end up having the Defy here, and yeah. So we probably we keep the Watcher here just to prevent them from hasting in to capture 2 or conquer 2. That's just the forced situation here. And opponent plays a White Flame to the board here. This is getting close to the end of the game. We will play a retreat and draw a card from the Dreaming Tree. So yeah, we'll put 1 rune, channel, and draw a card from Dreaming Tree. This smoke has been in the hand for a while, unfortunately for us. Yep, we accelerate Watcher and we take out the Clockwork Keeper. We go ahead and take a point here. We're at 4 points now. And we are in a position where we want to force the White Flame to trade here. Because if we don't trade, they could easily just White Flame and run it over. It's somewhat debatable. You could say just force your opponent to have it. The biggest problem is you know, they could just go here, draw a card, but that might not even be a problem because if they have it, they have it. We might just be in that kind of situation. Oh, yeah. Actually, this is where I forgot. Yeah, the Watcher minuses 3 on it. I remember this now. Yeah, it goes to 5 and then Charm already 4. Yeah. So opponent has Snapvine and they play Discipline and we lose our Watcher here. And yeah, this is probably just the end of the game, but we'll see. We haven't lost yet. We'll play Yordle, draw a card. We draw on Time Warp, but we are behind, so it's not the best, but it's not awful. And opponent moves a Snapvine in, draws a card, and they play an Accelerate unit, and that ends the game. I think we could have played that game a little better, but we were in a very messy situation from the start. So we're gonna go ahead and go into game 2. We're gonna be looking to side out some of our cards here that we don't want. We do want to put in Smoke and Shark, some Sprite Mothers maybe. We'll take a look. Yeah, so we're putting in 2 Sprite Mothers, a Shark, and a Smoke. We're gonna look for some cards to remove here. I think we want to get rid of Find Your Center. It's a little slow. You need to be more aggressive with protecting your unit in the early turns. So Find Your Center is not a card that really helps you do that. So you want to just have more smoke screens, more defies, more. I think this matchup in particular, you don't really need defy, but you would against Kaisa. We just have all of our combat tricks to ensure that lives. I'm pretty sure, yeah, here we take out 2 Find Your Center, and what we're supposed to do is take out 2 Retreat, but we actually take out one Stupefy, 1 Retreat. It ends up being wrong, and we do fix it in game 3. But just something to think about is you just need to be more aggressive with on defense with Dreaming Tree. I think my rationale is Retreat is kind of okay in this game, because if they are able to beat our unit on the tree, then we can just retreat, or on the grove we can just retreat. But that's not really a place you want to be against Master Yi. Against Kaisa, that's like it's pretty good, but not against Master Yi. So we're gonna go ahead and get started here. We're gonna get our Grove of the God Willow going first. We did lose game 1. We need to win both games. It is totally possible. Now we'll go ahead and get our opening hand. We do like this opening hand a lot. We have our Student, we have our 2-drop, we have our Combat Trick. We've got a Charm to keep the opponent's board under control, and Singularity to kind of stop our opponent from playing Build a Board, trying to contest here. So we'll just begin with our 2-drop here. Play our Riftbound Student, probably the best one that we can get. Poro's a close second. Opponent will play Pookie and pass a turn here. And now we haven't drawn blue, but we don't need blue yet, luckily. So we're gonna go ahead and move our Ravenbloom Student to the Grove of the God Willow here. I guess the question is, do we ever care about it on Dreaming Tree? But no, I don't think so. We're gonna go ahead and charm the Pookie over here just to make sure that they can't Primal Strength, because we can't really beat that. Opponent is gonna go on guard, so that'll go to 3 might, and we're gonna go ahead and on guard, so our Student goes to 5. Pass the turn. Now we're back at 2 might, but the opponent has no units to contest this battlefield with. Opponent will play a Paka Cub here, and we'll play a Stopwatch. and we go ahead and get our point, hold, draw a card, which is really good for us because we have this discipline now and we have a defy. So we'll just go ahead and pass the turn back to the opponent. We'll just hang out, and this shows you the power of Ahri. It's very similar to the Master Yi mentality, except we have more units to do it with, and we've got blue cards, right? So opponent will play the Peacock Cub and try and trade with our student here. So we're gonna go ahead and play discipline, and we're gonna go up to 3 might. So we'll go up to 5. Opponent goes ahead and just their stopwatch triggers. We draw a card from discipline here, and we did get something pretty good here. So we have our shark. We've also got a singularity. Very good cards to have in this situation. Opponent does have access to Master Yi next turn though, so we need to be careful about that. We'll go to 3 points, get a draw from Grove of the God Willow here. Yeah, so now we need to think about opponent. Okay, pausing for a second. Opponent goes to 9 runes, right? So with 9 runes, the opponent can have Master Yi, and Master Yi can just run this over. So one of the problems is that if we just play the Rex here, it'll take this out, but they could have combat trick. Combat trick can be stopped with a defy, but what that does is if we play the Rex and the defy, what ends up happening is we get rid of 3 of our runes and we go back to 6 next turn. And you know, singularity is a very good play, but it might get us stuck in a low rune situation. So you'll see I opt to do something here kind of to lock it in. Another card that we need to play around here is Dead Bloom, right? Dead Bloom plus On Guard can really just ruin our day. But yeah, so yeah, because if we just Rex the, what's it called? If we Rex the Cub, then we might have a situation where we can't properly defend ourselves here. Because if we Rex, move the student off, and then charm this, then they'll have empty board, but then we'll have nothing to defend ourselves with. So here we're taking a turn off, and we're gonna go ahead and develop the Thousand Tail Watcher to the board and retreat the what's that called? Retreat the student back to the base. So what this does is it allows us to develop the board, and we have a material advantage in the form of cards in hand. And in the form of points, opponent will be at 2 points. They can move up to 3 points, but then we will have a better board than them, and we will have more cards than them. Because we'll be going to 8, right? Because if we're at 8 runes, we have a lot of options and backup for it, right? We can have singularity, we'll have charm, we'll have defy. We can do all the above, or we can just play a second watcher and just take both battlefields away and put watchers on both fields. And once that happens, Master, you can have a lot of trouble. So here the opponent plays a Tasty to the Grove of the God Willow, and that is okay for us, right? If we play the Watcher here, what ends up happening is that this will be 3, this will be 1, and then this will be 4, right? And then this will be 1. And if we Watcher, we can take both battlefields without really being in danger of discipline, dying to discipline here. So I think that would be our best line. And if we have a Watcher on both boards, the opponent can't Dead Bloom, and the opponent will have no units in base, and the opponent will not be able to Yi and discipline, because that is nearly a tie, and it will just end up holding on the other side. Okay, so we play a Thousand Tail Watcher. We're gonna go ahead and -3 from all units. So that means this is 1. This is 1. This is 3. So it'll be 4, and that'll be 3 on defense, which we discussed has it, winning all the combats. So we just need to make sure we sequence this properly. We'll send in the Watcher here first, because the opponent will draw a card, right? They'll draw a card if we get this, and we just don't want them drawing before this combat happens here, or before the other combat happens. It's a very minor sequencing thing. You just make sure the last thing your opponent does is draw, because they could also do something like find your center or something. But yeah, just last thing opponent does is draw. So that's what we want to sequence it in this way. I guess yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and win both combats here. We're gonna go to 5 points. Opponent will draw a card and channel 2 runes. They'll be going to 12 runes, but with no board, it makes it pretty difficult for the opponent to contest us here. So the opponent is playing a Master Yi, and they will accelerate onto the Grove of the God Willow, and they will play Discipline. So they're gonna go ahead and be able to trade here. This is what we're talking about. So if opponent has another trick, which they do, we will lose that combat. But the opponent has expended a lot of resources into that. They only have 2 runes available now, and we do hold here. So we've got a few ways to make this very painful for our opponent here. We can charm that over. We can also Riptide Rex. Let's go ahead and yeah. So we go ahead and play charm to this Master Yi, channeling a green or recycling a green rune. Master Yi goes ahead and attacks for 5. Opponent has a discipline here, and we just need to figure out how we want to ration out. So we can either defy or discipline, but we probably want to be able to defy in case it's a primal strength or something like that, where because discipline always beats this. So we're gonna go ahead and play our discipline and to win this combat here. And what we can do now is make it so that we can score our 7th point and make it so that our opponent needs to take us off of both battlefields. And something that Yi has difficulty with is contesting 2 battlefields when your board is empty. So that's something to keep in mind here. So we're going to go ahead and play a Lecturing Yordle here, and we're going to draw a card, and we've drawn a retreat, but that's not really relevant. We're going to go ahead and play a Stalwart Poro. So now we have no runes available, but we have 7 might on both battlefields, which makes it very difficult for our opponent to actually beat it. Like a Dead Bloom by itself only trades with one of the battlefields, and 4 might would not be enough to take us off of both. Opponent plays Clockwork Keeper to base, draw a card, plays another Clockwork Keeper to base, draw another card. They have 8 runes available, and opponent goes ahead and concedes this game. So we've lost game 1 and won game 2. We will be going to game 3, and as we discussed, we're taking out that retreat and putting in that next copy of Stupefy. I think we could have put in a Find Your Center, but I think it's also totally fine because Sprite Mother is also pretty good on Candlelit Sanctum. So we're just going to go ahead and leave that alone there, but that is also a synergy to think about. Sprite Mother plus Candlelit Sanctum equals more Conquers. And we will be going second. So this is the last battlefield, and our opponent's last battlefield will also be Grove of the God Willow. That makes sense. So we're gonna go ahead and get rid of our Time Warp in our opening hand, and now we have our desired opening with 2-drop and tricks. So now opponent will go ahead and start with a Stalwart Poro. We're going to go ahead and start with 3 runes, and then we're going to play our student pass a turn. Opponent moves their Stalwart Poro into the Grove of the God Willow. Now it defends for 5. And we can attack that if we like, but we just need to see what the opponent does here. Opponent is playing a something. Opponent's playing a Clockwork Keeper here. You're gonna go ahead and draw a card. I think they're looking for combat tricks to protect this Poro. I could see that being the reason why. But we do want to be a little careful here. We don't want to assume too much. So what we're gonna do here, I think, is just play this Sprite Mother. Because, okay, so if we go in here It'll be 5, and then we could smoke it. But if we lose that combat, it will be a very bad day for us here. It might just lose us the game if we lose this combat in particular. So what we're going to do here is we're going to play Sprite Mother, move it into the Candlelit Sanctum. So what that does is it also denies this this Clockwork Keeper from entering this battlefield. So we've got a Discipline and a Riptide Rex, and we will put both on top with the Discipline on top. So that way, when we Discipline, we can get access to Discipline next turn, and we can draw the Riptide Rex for the following turn, and we will still have access to these. So we will have access to 3 tricks, and we'll be able to win the Grove. Opponent goes to 2 points, and they draw 1 card from Grove of the God Willow. And the opponent is also putting down a hidden card. So this could be a Zonia's Hourglass or a Paka Cub. Something to think about, but I'm pretty sure we just have the tricks to beat anything here. Or anything is not the right word, but we beat like almost everything here. We've got a Discipline, and we've got a Smoke, and we've got an On Guard. Something to think about is if we send both units in together, where our On Guard will only give 1 might, technically 2 because of the student. But yeah, we want to ensure that we win this combat here. So we're gonna go ahead and send both units in here because of that. If we can win this combat, both of these units in the base will defend for 1, which makes it more difficult for our opponent. And one factor to consider is that the opponent is low on runes. They are going into 6, so they can't Master Yi. We really just need to guarantee this combat here. So we're going to go ahead and start with a Discipline on the Ravenbloom student. And the student will go to 5 might here. And this puts us at 8 to the opponent's 5. We are currently winning the combat. Opponent plays a Paka Cub. Now that this Poro is now 3 and the Cub's at 3. We're going to be at 6. Or we're going to be at 8 here. Yeah, we're just, so me and my opponent, we talked about they probably should just On Guard before the Cub, and yeah, so we're going to go ahead and do that. So we're gonna go ahead and On Guard and flip the Cub after, because it's not alone anymore. Now the Poro is defending for 5 and the Cub is defending for 3. So now we are currently tied on this battlefield. We just have to figure out exactly how we want to go about this here. We are at 6 runes going into 8 runes. We're gonna go ahead and smoke screen the what's that called? Smoke screen the Poro. And now we're just going to go ahead and On Guard something just to make sure that we win this combat here. So this will be 7. We're going to put it on the student here. We got a 7 might. So we go to 10. Opponent is at 8. And opponent only has 1 rune. And so opponent says they want to go ahead and get rid of this student here. So now we have 3 might on this battlefield. Opponent has 2 might total. And what that does is makes it so that the opponent must have an additional card here. So opponent will play their Discipline, turning their Clockwork Keeper into 4 might, and they'll draw a card. Now that they'll trade because of the Ahri Legend ability, and they will be playing the Clockwork Keeper to the Grove of the God Willow. They're gonna play a what's that called? A first mate, move it back home, and we will just play a Poro to the base past the turn. And opponent moves their Clockwork Keeper to the what's that called? To the Candlelit Sanctum. So they're gonna go ahead and look at those top 2, put both cards at the bottom. Now we can just move our eggplant over there. And our next turn is very, very busted because we're going into 9 runes, so we'll be able to accelerate out the Watcher and hold up On Guard and defend both battlefields. So this is just very, very good for us. Oh, and we've drawn Stupefy. Makes it even better. So we just need to figure out where we want both of the units to end up here. So we're gonna go ahead and start by putting our Tasty Faithfolk here, and we what's that called? We take that, or we take the Grove the God Willow, and we're gonna go ahead and play our Riptide Rex here to the base, I think. Okay, no, we're gonna play it to the Grove and get rid of that Clockwork Keeper on the Candlelit Sanctum. So the idea here, I think, or I'm pretty sure we play this to base. Yeah. So we actually just we were talking about this. So we play the Tasty there, and then we play the Rex to base, so that way we can threaten any follow up here. We do have On Guard and Stupefy, so it makes it very difficult for our opponent to do too much. And we do have a Watcher to kind of close it out. Opponent is at 5 points, but we are creating a pretty stable board at this point. If the opponent gets rid of the Tasty, it gets very bad for them. Opponent is playing Primal Strength, and this will be 10 might, and Ahri Legend ability triggers. It'll be 9 might to our 6, so we can actually tie here with On Guard and Stupefy. But we're actually just gonna go ahead, and I think we just start with Stupefy, right? Yeah, so we Stupefy here, we go to that goes to 8, we're at 6, draw, and then we've drawn Defy, which is pretty good for us. So we're gonna go ahead and On Guard here, and opponent tries to defy the On Guard, and we defy their Defy. And now we go to 8, and we just trade off here entirely, and we're gonna have 2 runes. This is why Tasty is very good. You get the 2 runes, and you get a card draw after the opponent has expended resources into clearing it. And we're gonna go ahead and draw for turn here. Now we have 10 runes available, which gives us a lot of different possibilities here. So we have 4 points, and now we're gonna go ahead and just try and get the double points here. We're gonna go ahead and play Lecturing Yordle, draw a card. Now we have 2 runes available for Smokescreen, and we have Charm access next turn. Opponent will need a lot to get out of this situation, so they're gonna go ahead and play a what's that called? Hourglass. And opponent tries to use Snapvine on our Ahri here, and that'll put the Snapvine at 2 might. Our Ahri will be at 4, and then the Hourglass saves the Snapvine, so it does stay in base. But we do get a trigger off of Ahri and off of Grove. We will draw a card, and we will score an additional point. So now we're ahead on points of our opponent, and then we will accelerate the what's that card? Accelerate the Watcher onto the Grove. We get 2 units, or sorry, on the Sanctum. We get 2 units onto there on the top of the deck, and we send them both to the bottom. We're gonna charm the Snapvine over, and the Snapvine is like 1 might at this point, or 2 might, so it would have died. But then the opponent does have a Rune Prison, save the Snapvine. But the problem for the opponent here is that they need to take us off of both battlefields. The opponent does have a Discipline, so they go to 5 might, and they go to 7 might here. And we're gonna go ahead and Stupefy the Snapvine before the Discipline resolves, just in case they draw a Defy. You always want to do that first if you can. So we go ahead and put it to 4 might. Sorry, it's 6 might, 5 might. Yeah, so it'll gain 2, lose 2, and it will lose the fight, and we will be able to win this game here. And that shows you the power of Ahri, the power of green Ahri, and the power of having a lot of runes in the end game. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any questions. I think these games were pretty good representations of what to expect from Ahri. You know, in game 1, we didn't have the right combination of units and tricks, and we also played somewhat suboptimal, but you know, that's just how it goes. So game 1 we had lost. Game 2 we created a lead with Grove of the God Willow there, and game 3 we started slow. Our opponent did get one draw off of the Grove of the God Willow, but we did play patiently, and eventually we found a position where we have too much might for the Master Yi to deal with, and we were able to win the game with we were able to catch up with Green Ahri and eventually convert it into a win. And yeah, that's how Ahri generally wants to play the game. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and leave it in the comments section, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later. Peace.